Just 5 minutes. That is all it takes. 5 minutes in a natural setting, a park, a forest, a stretch of open coastline, and your cortisol levels begin to drop, your heart rate slows, and your brain starts shifting into a measurably calmer state. Not metaphorically calmer. Measurably, scientifically, documentably calmer. Research from the University of Michigan found that group nature walks were associated with significantly lower levels of depression, perceived stress, and negative affect. And yet, for the first time in human history, more than half of our global population lives entirely disconnected from regular contact with nature. In the next several minutes, you are going to discover exactly how and why nature affects your mental health at a neurological and physiological level, what specific environments produce the strongest effects, and how much exposure you actually need to see real results. We will also look at something that most wellness conversations completely avoid, the concept of nature deficit disorder, and why certain types of natural exposure are actually more powerful than others. There is one finding from the research that genuinely contradicts what most people assume, and by the end, it will completely change how you think about rest and recovery. To understand the connection between nature and mental health, we need to go back roughly 200,000 years. For nearly the entire span of human existence, our species lived outdoors. We were embedded in natural landscapes, forests, savannas, rivers, coastlines. Our nervous systems evolved not in offices or apartments, but in open air, under moving skies, surrounded by the sounds of water, wind, and living creatures. This is not a romantic idea. It is a biological reality. The human brain is an organ that was shaped by nature over millennia, and it still expects, on some fundamental level, to be in contact with it. When that contact disappears, something goes wrong. The term biophilia, first coined by psychologist Erich Fromm and later developed extensively by biologist E.O. Wilson, describes exactly this, the innate human tendency to seek connection with other living systems. Wilson argued that this drive is not cultural. It is genetic. We are drawn to nature because we are, quite literally, made from it. And when we are separated from it, our minds and bodies register that separation as a form of stress. This is where modern life presents a profound problem. The average American now spends approximately 90% of their time indoors. In urban environments across the world, people can go entire weeks without meaningful contact with a natural setting. Green space is unevenly distributed, often concentrated in wealthier neighborhoods while lower-income communities have far less access. And children, who may be most sensitive to these effects, are spending less time outside than any previous generation in recorded history. But here is what nobody talks about when they discuss screen time and modern stress. It is not just the presence of technology that harms us. It is the simultaneous absence of nature. These two things are happening at the same time, compounding each other, and most of the conversation only focuses on one half of the equation. Research from Stanford University asked a critical question: what does nature actually do to the brain? They took participants and had half of them walk through an urban environment and half walk through a natural, green setting for 90 minutes. The results were striking. The group that walked through nature showed significantly reduced activity in the subgenual prefrontal cortex, the region of the brain associated with repetitive negative thought, or what psychologists call rumination. Rumination is one of the primary drivers of depression and anxiety. Nature, it turns out, literally quiets the part of your brain that generates self-critical, looping, negative thought patterns. That Stanford finding opened a cascade of follow-up research. Scientists began asking not just whether nature helps, but how much, and what kind. One of the most comprehensive analyses came from a 2019 study published in Scientific Reports, which examined data from 20,000 people across the United Kingdom. The researchers found that people who spent at least 2 hours per week in natural environments reported significantly better health and psychological well-being than those who spent no time in nature. The effect held across age groups, genders, and even across people with chronic illness or disability. 2 hours per week. That is less than 18 minutes per day. A completely achievable threshold that most people are still not meeting. What happens physiologically during that time is remarkable. Exposure to natural environments triggers a measurable reduction in cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. It lowers blood pressure and heart rate. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for rest, digestion, and emotional regulation, more effectively than most other passive interventions. There is also growing evidence that phytoncides, the airborne chemical compounds released by trees and plants, have a direct effect on human immune function. Studies from Japan, where forest bathing, known as Shinrin-yoku, has been a public health practice since the 1980s, show that 2 days in a forested environment can increase natural killer cell activity, a key component of immune defense, by more than 50%, and those effects can last for up to 30 days after a single trip. But here is where the research gets genuinely surprising. Not all natural environments produce the same effects. And the type of nature matters more than most people realize. Studies comparing urban parks, forests, coastal environments, and even indoor plants found that settings with water, rivers, lakes, oceans, consistently produce the strongest mental health benefits. The sound of moving water appears to have a uniquely powerful calming effect on the nervous system. Researchers believe this goes back to our evolutionary history, when the sound of water signaled safety, proximity to resources, and a lower likelihood of predator activity. Your brain still hears flowing water and interprets it as a signal that everything is going to be okay. Green environments with high biodiversity also outperform manicured, low-diversity spaces. A walk through a wild meadow with dozens of plant and insect species produces greater psychological restoration than a walk through a neatly trimmed municipal park. This has massive implications for how we design cities, hospitals, schools, and workplaces. Simply adding green space is not enough. The quality and complexity of that space matters enormously. And consider this, studies on hospital patients have found that individuals with windows overlooking natural environments recover from surgery faster, require less pain medication, and report lower levels of anxiety than patients whose windows face walls or other buildings. Nature's influence on the mind is so powerful that even a passive, visual connection to it, simply being able to see trees or sky, produces measurable therapeutic benefits. This brings us to what researchers call attention restoration theory, developed by Rachel and Stephen Kaplan at the University of Michigan. Their framework distinguishes between directed attention, the kind required for work, decision-making, and focused tasks, and involuntary attention, the effortless, gentle engagement that natural environments produce. Nature does not demand our focus. It invites it softly. A bird moving through branches, light shifting on water, wind moving through grass. These stimuli engage the mind without taxing it. And that gentle engagement allows the directed attention system to rest and recover. It is, in essence, a biological reset. Something no screen, no city street, and no indoor environment can reliably replicate. The practical implications here are significant. Mental health professionals are increasingly recommending what they call ecotherapy or green prescriptions, structured time in natural environments as a formal treatment for depression, anxiety, and stress-related conditions. Some countries, including Scotland and Finland, have begun issuing nature prescriptions as part of their national health systems. The evidence supporting this approach is not anecdotal. It is rigorous, replicable, and growing. What this tells us, ultimately, is that our relationship with nature is not a luxury or a preference. It is a health requirement. The human mind was built for contact with the living world, and when that contact is severed, we pay for it in anxiety, depression, cognitive fatigue, and chronic stress. The good news is that the dose needed to begin reversing those effects is genuinely small. 2 hours per week. Time near water when possible. Wild and biodiverse settings when available. Before you go, if you learned something valuable today, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Sleep Wave for a brand new video every single day. We will see you in the next one.